Hello there, welcome back to the Hold-Up Project. Today, we haven't done one of these for a while, so let's get her up on the rack and start talking about it. What we have in front of us is a 2002 4L60E. Customer says, no second gear, has all the other ones. So I figured it might be kind of fun to tear it into it and learn about no second gear together. So, let's take a gander. Okay, I've already got the bell housing bolts out of it. So the bell housing bolts are out, so that just lifts right off. I think we've talked about it. In the past. These use a what is that? A T40 Plus. The Plus is a little bit thicker, and if you use a T40 on it, it just rips has the potential to tear the guts out of the inside of there, and then you've got yourself a bad day. Another thing you can always do if you're having a problem getting them out of there, especially if you're going to try and do it by hand with a breaker bar, is heat up these areas where the threads go in, because there's a little bit of Loctite on those. And they have a pretty good torque spec too. I think it's like 70 pounds. So let's go ahead and get this last 13 mil off for the pan. She's nasty. It's probably just as nasty inside, if we're going to be honest with one another. And then we just, I'm going to crack that on the side. Give her a little love tap. There she goes. Let out some of that Queen of the Deep mud fluid out of it. These things just burn up and eat themselves. Not quite as bad as that nasty 6L90, 6L80 operation that GM has. And I'm a GM guy. But I'll tell you what, they really did it up wrong when they did that 6L80, 6L90. Good robust transmission if you can keep the damn pump from eating itself. And that's caused by the torque converter. And their programmable logic that they got in. So, let's just keep on working away. Quit talking about the 6L90. This is a 4L60 video. What we're going to do here is pull the filter off. And then slow and gentle. Don't want to splatter the whole floor. Looks like someone may have been in this transmission before. I'll show you the pan. Got 2 magnets full. That's very similar to Baba Black Sheep. 3 magnets full. Okay, then we're gonna disconnect our connectors here. We're gonna get ourselves a small thin screwdriver. Surprised I didn't lose that one across the garage for as much as I was fighting with it. Okay. Put the torque converter clutch solenoid down there. Now we need to switch over to our 10. Let's go ahead and blast that out of there. Oh, Murphy's Law. Just drop that right on in the pan. I was really planning not to do that. But whatever. It'll be fine. Everything is fine. And then we'll go ahead and move along here. And undo the rest of the harness. This thing's gotten, I got a little bit of aroma to it here. Stinky. Alright, now we'll go back up top with our 13 for the pump. And this This little Milwaukee impact gun's been losing some ass here lately, and I'm not sure if it's because of the battery is cold. Now it just proves me right. There we go. There's always one of you in the group, isn't there? I win. I win. I mean, we knew I was going to. Got the old cliffhanger magnetic screwdriver there. Just holding on by his fingertips. What do we need to remove? That's right, our torque converter clutch O-ring. Otherwise, you're not going to get the pump out of there. Reach in here, pop the pump. Dickhead. Thought I would have brought my table a little closer to my working area, but I didn't. And we learned ourselves a little lesson about fluid, that when the vessel that it's contained in has a hole in it and it's tipped to the side, it pours all over the place. It's funny that thrust washer there between the pump and the reverse input drum looked awfully fresh. Awfully fresh. You see, normally they're stained with fluid. That one was not really. Okay. Now, all I did is lean this input drum to the side, unhook the clasp that holds the band in, and unlatched it. Now, we're just going to pull up on it. Yank that right on out of there. And we're going to set it on our bench. We'll look at all these things over there. Band is a little scorchy. You can see it's got some grindage in there. You guys remember Pauly Shore on what the hell was that movie? Son-in-Law? Boy, that was pretty funny. He was always munching on some grindage, if you remember. Alright, now we're going to get deep into the bowels of this thing, and there's a little snap ring in here. Oopsie. Yep, and it's one of those snap rings that if you don't get it on the first time, it's going to take you about an hour to get, because it's so stupid. And if you have a worn out pair of pliers like I do here, might take you longer than an hour. Got her. Next out comes the front planetary gear set. I call it front because it's in the front. Has a bearing. And this one's new enough to has a bearing behind that too. on the carrier. Always take a look at your gear teeth. Anywhere there's a set. Looks kind of dingy. Okay. Then the sun shell comes out. Now, I believe it was 2004 that they started hardening these down in here on the splines because they were running into problems with them cracking and either taking the whole nub off or splitting or taking the teeth out. I don't see anything wrong with this one. Then your sun gear, they mate together. Then you got your small thrust washer like this. Okay, then next you get a small crowbar or screwdriver. And we're going to get this inner ring out of here for the center support. This is your center support and the snap ring that retains it. So there isn't anything too special about this center support snap ring. It's not real heavy duty. Like the 6L90, and it's not bolted in like the 4L80. There you go. Normally that's yellow in color. And then we're down to the bottom. And how I normally solve this issue is I just go ahead and wrap on the output shaft. And that'll knock the whole kit and caboodle out of there. So we can go ahead and do that. Now, if you got a two-wheel drive one, you're going to have to take the extension housing off because the gear set on the back that the speedometer vehicle speed sensor reads will get caught if you try and pull it straight out. So we're just going to reach under here and give her the old tappy tap tap. And then all the innards come on out of there. I wonder what that weird purple line is. It's interesting. So the only thing that's now left in there is the low reverse piston and the spring cage that holds it in. That one's also one of those that you got to kind of go down there and fish around and get. Here on the side is your second gear servo. Actually, it'll do second and fourth. And it pushes on the band and stops the rotation of the reverse input drum for both second and fourth gear. So this one could get interesting. Give it a little tap there. Kind of loosens the snap ring. Then we go ahead and dive in. Snap ring it on out of there. I'll put that right there for safekeeping. You guys remind me if I lose that, okay? Now we'll clamp on the side here. Wiggle and jiggle. There you go. And you'll start to see that blue O-ring. Got a couple of ways about going about this. You can simply reach down in and pull it on up here. Like this. And really pull on it. Make sure your catch pan's under there now. Pull up on it and wiggle that cap. And it'll magically come on out of there. Because what you're doing is you're reducing the size of the O-ring, and you're able to pull it out of there like that. Okay, so let's see. We'll set that over here. And then we'll get the servo out of there for second gear. Now this servo here is what one would call the truck servo. You see how big that center is in there? What number is it? A 553. That's a truck servo. An 093 is going to be your Corvette servo. But I don't see anything in here that shows me that second gear wasn't working, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't. Let me go ahead and get lined out over here on the table, and we'll go through some of these parts together. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at these components here. So we've got the low reverse clutch, we've got the center support, and we've got the low roller clutch down here, which is a sprag. Some people might argue with me, but it stops rotation in one direction and allows rotation in the next. Just like that. We can look at the clutches for indication of heat. The steels and clutches are looking okay. This is the lower planet assembly. We're going to look at this, test for rock and up and down. It looks good to me. Sometimes on these you'll find one gear or one planet pinion that has more rock than the others. So then of course look down, put this in front of you and look down the gear face and check for pitting, thin stuff, all of the things that would cause bad things to happen. There's a caged bearing down here. Spin it and check it for wear and noise. Same with this bearing. Normally what I say is if you can't feel any crunchiness and you can't feel any of it or hear any of it, then it should be an okay thing to reuse. In this case, we're just going to replace them. Same with this bearing. That one's okay. That heat ring must just be from hardening. Maybe they ran an induction harden process along here, and you might be able to tell that because of the clear definition between the non-heat treatment and the heat treatment for these case lugs for the parking brake. We'll move to the reverse input drum. This is what the band rides on and clamps to stop rotation and give you second and fourth gear. You can see that there's a heat drag on this bad boy. And that's from the band slipping. Let's go ahead and take a look inside and let me get my screwdriver. We'll pull these clutches out. Seldom do I see any problem with this clutch set. They're on very little. They're on for reverse. So if you've run the transmission low on fluid, these will be just absolutely smoked. And they look pretty good to me. Got a little bit of funniness happening on the clutch face here, but it looks like this tranny may have had water in it at one time. Those look like rust pits to me. Then again, maybe this thing sat around, who knows? Maybe it got water in it. We discussed our sun shell and planet, or our sun shell and sun gear. Again, the same thing. Look down the face of the teeth on the front and the back side for any wear. Check this for being stripped out, but very commonly it's this one here. And this feels nice and tight. Got our pump here, we'll go through that last. We've got our third and fourth gear clutch set. Up here, got 1.5 miles worth of clearance there on the, I bet you there's close to an 1/8 inch. That is a lot of clearance. This clutch pack here is only on in third and fourth. That snap ring has a little J cut out of it. The infamous third and fourth gear clutch pack. You can see where the heat was chattering on the steels with the little cheetah pattern. We'll check the top plate and the bottom plate for flatness, because we can reuse them. This one may not be flat, in which case you buy new. Sonex has a nice top and bottom plate. They're much more structurally rigid than the GM unit. So that's always something that you can look into. Next comes our forward clutches. The old forward and overrun clutch pack is housed. This snap ring here is a lot more robust than the others. And then when you have a pencil thin screwdriver, it doesn't help matters any either. Okay, that's the end of the input drum for the 4L60. We'll take a look at the overruns. Overruns look good. They're only on in when you're downshifting manually to slow down. That's kind of like your slow down clutch, coast clutch, overrun, common names. This is your forward clutch set. As the name would imply, it's on when you're going forward. See this oxidation? We're seeing that all the way throughout the transmission here. Common issue. This is your forward sprag. Spins freely to the right, locks to the left. We'll pop that out of there. Just one small snap ring. One little snap ring here. Pull this thing out and check for wear. It looks good. Looks good. Yeah, someone's rebuilt this thing before. They put the dual cage sprag in it, which is good. That's a good sprag. The ones with the plastic on the outside are actually just a blonde one taller on the sprag than the ones that aren't in the plastic. They put those in the later transmissions to get a little bit better hold than the other dual cage clutch. We're going to look for signs of slippage and grabbage in here. We could call that chatter. I'm not seeing anything there. Check this guy. There's a couple little teeth marks. We may have to revisit that. And then we can tear this pump down when I have some room to do it and look to see how murdered the inside is of that. Because like I said, it does seem like there's a little bit of metal in there in the bottom of the pan. Those are your return springs for your third and fourth gear. They're not in bad condition. They're not completely collapsed because I haven't seen intense heat, but if you get a set, or if you get one that has the springs collapsed, replace them. We'll get our 13 out and attack that again. You can't confuse those 5 bolts with any others. These are a pretty simple transmission. Pump face looks good. We're going to pull the guts out of this and check the back, but I've got to put you down for just a minute. I'm needed. Okay, so we're going to keep digging because we haven't found Andrea Canning in her smoking gun yet. And for those of you that watch the crime and horror shows, you'll appreciate that one. I worked hard on it, trying to come up with something comical. Okay, here we go. Now remember, all these are 10 millimeter. You have 3 8 millimeter ones, and those are in 1, 2, 3 position. If they even call it a position, I call it position. One, 2 accumulator piston housing off. We'll check to see if there's anything in there, but that's just an accumulator. That shouldn't affect the shifting. If anything, it would make it too hard. There she goes. That's normal for it to lift up because it's under tension over here on your spring. And then this is your electronic pressure controller. Some people call it a force motor. Some people call it a sickle. I call it a sling blade. There we go. Now if you left your socket on the top there, make sure to grab that. So there's another area I was going to look at for check balls. I don't see anything odd here. A lot of times this one here is beat right through the separator plate, but it's not. Take our check balls. If I could quit losing them down the holes of the transmission. It's all right. We got gravity assist. It'll help pull them out. And then you got your 8th check ball down here. You know, sometimes these things get hot, shrink the gaskets, make them hard and brittle, and then I'm sorry, I meant to say O-rings. They'll make them hard and brittle, then they don't function like they should. So always be mindful of that when you're checking things over. Like I said, we'll just flip this case over and get those other check balls out of there. Could use a magnet too. Okay, let's go ahead and get this thing stood up. Let her drain out. She's nasty. She's nasty, friends. So far, we haven't found what we absolutely know to be the culprit of no second gear, but I think we're kind of got some ideas. We could now look for hydraulic integrity. And for that, we have a tester. We can test the valve bodies with it. And then regardless on that second gear servo, we're going to go ahead and go back with a Corvette servo. The truck servo is a pretty soft servo where the aggressiveness of second gear on a Corvette servo is just a little bit better feel. All right, so here we are. It's a couple days after with that 4L60E that had no second gear, if you can remember. And we're going to try and diagnose what we found as we walk through that transmission teardown. You remember, no second gear. He claims he had third, but I think that it was just hanging on by dear life. Maybe 2 or 3 fingers on a rock edge like Sylvester Stallone in the movie Cliffhanger. But let's take a look at it here. Alright, I'm going to point you down here at the valve body, because that's going to be our focus for today. I did the vacuum testing on the valve body itself, and everything fell into spec. We're all 20s, 17 was a low number. We put some Sonex parts in there to address these numbers to get them where they are. So this valve body is good to go. Torque converter. This lineup valve here, or valve lineup rather, as normal people speak. Let's go ahead and pop that open, because I wanted to show you something about this transmission, or this particular valve body. So we'll take the old spring clip on out of there. I'm going to move you over here so my shoulders aren't in the way, because I happen to have a terrible habit of putting you guys right in the way of where I'm working. So right here, let's quickly show you this. I'm going to turn on my vacuum tester and kind of do 2 things at the same time here. Pardon the noise of the vacuum pump. Now our lowest number that we should see is a 15. We're going to go ahead and put the block over the prescribed area here as per Sonex's sheet. We're going to try and pull a vacuum on it. You can see that there, and I'll show you the meter. We've got ourselves a big fat 0, and that's not good. Now the others go up here at the top of the valve where it doesn't shuttle back and forth a million times a second, and we're pulling 19 inches of vacuum. So the valve's good at the top, which is excellent. It's just down there at the bottom. If you want to see me do more of that vacuum testing, I can probably make a video one of these days on it. You'll just have to tell me in the comment section below. So we're going to stroke this valve on out of here. I'm going to try and do this quite quickly because my time today is short. And I've got way more hours invested in this turd than I probably should have, but for happy customers, you have to do what you need to do. So here's our shuttle valve right here. And if we take and put, I should have done this earlier. So if you take and put this valve in the bottom of this valve body, this is the one that shuttles back and forth freely and turns on and off the torque converter, pulse width modulating, wearing the hell out of the valve body down here. You can see a massive light leak around the valve and the valve body casting. So luckily Transgo makes a solver here, and what it does is we extend the valve into the good portion of the valve body. So we're still going to use this piece. We're not going to use the OEM spring. We are, however, going to use the portion of the valve here that Transgo supplies to us. And then these two mate together, forming a union like so, making the end of this valve extremely long, and then the valve lineup will work again. Okay, so we're just going to take the valve like this. We're going to slide it in the bore. Okay. Then we're going to take the valve body bore plug, stuff it in there, and that valve is now quite a bit longer, obviously, and it's not going to shuttle around anymore. The valve is, you know, this long. So now this torque converter will work and, you know, hopefully prevent any other problems. Sonic says that this torque converter valve, and I'll read it to you here, your 1870 code, that's a popular one, low line pressure. Obviously, that'll be a bad news. That's a bad news bear. Overheated converter, harsh 1-2 shift, low torque converter apply pressure. So that'll, you know, obviously overheat the converter because you're not getting any pressure holding the clutch off in the converter. And then 3rd and 4th gear clutch burn up. So we've got our valve body repaired now. We can go ahead and put that on. I always include a new force motor too, because those things have a tendency to wear out. Now let's look at some of the other items that we found when we were tearing this thing down. So what did we find? Well, this is our reverse input drum. It engages with the sun shell. When the band stops the rotation of this drum from turning, then you get 2nd gear. And if the appropriate clutches are on for 3rd and 4th, you get 4th gear. I'm going to try and show you this. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. We've got a straight edge razor here, and we're going to put it across the top of the drum where the band rides, and we're going to see what we can see underneath of it. Let me get you down in the heat of the moment here. Okay. We can already see that the drum itself is scorched, but if you take a look at that, can you see the light under? There we go. If you take a look at that, you can see the light passing underneath of that drum with the razor blade there. That has a hell of a bow in it, and you can tell that with that amount of bow, It's only grabbing here and here, and it's slipping severely down the center of it. That also translates over to this band that's just completely wore. We did take a measurement on the servo travel also. It was over 120 thousandths. So, you know, I normally set my bands about 60 to 80. So you're losing all your mechanical advantage clamping that with that much travel in your servo pin. Plus the band being worn, plus the drum being concave. You're just losing. And that tells me probably why they had no second gear. Also, we remember that we saw all that travel in the third and fourth gear clutch. That was getting pretty worn too. So, I hope that kind of shed some light on, you know, what kind of forensics you got to do to find things when people drop stuff off to you and you're like, oh, you know, what happened? And they're like, well, I just lost second gear. Well, there could be a lot of things that happen when you lose second gear. So you got to look at everything. You got to look at the valve body, the band, the drum, everything that works with second gear. So hope you enjoyed that 4L60 moment, and we'll catch you again next Friday. As always, thanks for watching. We appreciate each and every one of you.